Okay, as we proceed on our Motzei Shabbos marathon, on Daf Kuf Mem Gimel Amud Beis, 6 lines from the bottom. At the Gemara, 6 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav Chaviva Berei de Rav Yosef Berei de Rava Mishmei de Rava. Rav Chaviva, the son of Rav Yosef, the son of Rava, says in the name of Rava, when do we say that the adult or the wife, if they don't say anything, they make the improvement for the estate in general? That's only if they use the money of the estate. But if they use their own funds, then hishbichu la'atzman. Then they, even without saying anything, they made the improvements only for themselves. Says the Gemara, Ini, is this so? V'amar Rav Chanina, afilu lo yaniach lehem avim, ela udainei. Even if the father only left them a covered tank, and the covered tank could be rented out, so haschar le'emtza, the profit is shared. But I don't understand. If they rented it out, then who watched it? The adult. So didn't he take his own resources to watch it? He's watching it. He's using his own resources to watch it. Says the Gemara, Shani Udaine, a cistern is different. The Tirosahu David, you just have to watch it. Even the children could watch it. And therefore it's not considered that he did anything that the children couldn't do, and therefore it's shared by the entire estate. Amru, Ru'u ma shaniach Abba. He says, see what my father left. Hari anu v'oisin v'oichlin. We're going to do it for ourselves. Hishbichu la'atzman. So the Gemara says a case. Rav Safra, Shavik avu azuzeh. Rav Safra, his father left money. Shaklinu, he took it. Avid b'hu iska, and he did some business. And he didn't say he's doing it only for himself. So also achei tavua, the other brothers say we want a piece of the action. So tavua b'dinei kami de Rava, they brought him before Rava. Amar lahu, so he said Rav Safra gava Rabbahu. Rav Safra is a big masmid. He's a great man. And it's understood that if he's going to take the time out, he's taking the time out for his own benefit. Lo yishavik girsa, he wouldn't leave his learning, v'tarach la'achrine, and do for others. He's doing it for his own profit. Even though he didn't say it, that's assumed. For isha she'ishbicha es ha'nechasim, hishbicha la'emtza. A woman that improves for the general estate. So the Gemara wonders, what does a woman have to do with the estate of the orphan? She doesn't inherit. Isha b'nichse yasmei mayavidite. What's she doing with the estate of the orphans? Reb Yirmiyah, so Reb Yirmiyah says, B'ishi ereshes. Like we said, where the wife, the husband said, like we learned in the previous dot, Atu b'nai, you should have together with my children. So then the Gemara says, Pshita. So it's obvious. Says the Gemara, Mao Desema, I might think, Kaven the lav darka lemitrach, since a woman usually doesn't do work, Kol kavud de bas melech pnima, even if she doesn't say she's doing it for herself, I might think she's doing it for himself. Afal gab the loy parish, kamay the parish dami. It's as if she said that she's doing it for herself. Kamash malan. V'im amra, if she says, Re'u ma shaniach li baili, see the portion that my husband left me, hareni oisav eicheles, I'm doing it for myself, then ishbicha la'atzma. So again, the Gemara says, Pshita, why should she be different if she says it? So it's for herself. Says the Gemara, I might think that since people say, look how she troubles for the Yoshim, for the Yisayimim, she might be doing it for the orphans. Ma'ad the Sefer came into Shvicha Le Milsa, since it's a big praise to her. The Imre that people say, look, Katorcha Kamayasri, she's taking care of the orphans, I might think Achule Achla, even though she said it, she shares it with the orphans. Kamash Malan, that we don't say that. Amar Rabbi Chanina. Now here we have a case where the derech was that when you married off your older son in a house, you give him that house. If you're not living in that house, and you marry your son in that house, so you grant the house to your older son. And here the Gemara tells us this rule. Amr Chanina Hamesi Isha Lebnoi Gadol. If you're marrying off your oldest son, Bebayis Kanai, he acquires the house automatically. Vidafka Gadol, it's only the oldest son. Vidafka Besula, if it's a real simcha, if he's marrying a virgin. Vidafka Ishtoi Rishayna, and it's only if it's his first marriage. Vidafka Shesir Rishon, that he married first, it wasn't out of order. Now, some more parameters over here. Pshita, it's obvious, if Yached Loi Aviv Bayis Va'aliyah, if the father designated for the wedding a house, and on top of that house is a second story. Bayis Kana, he only gets the house. Aliyah Loi Kana, he doesn't get the other apartment. Bayis Vachsadrema, what about if it's a house plus a patio? Or Shnei Batim Zelifnim Mizeh, or two apartments, one within the other. And the wedding is in the inner apartment, but to get to the inner apartment, you have to pass through the outer apartment. Mao. So the Gemara says, take it. Tishbi Yatar's Kushas Vibais. We're not sure about that. May say, Yiyachid Loi Aviv Bayis Uklei Bayis. If the father designated the house and the furnishings, Klei Bayis Kana, he gets the furnishings, Bayis Loi Kana. He doesn't get the house. Now that's strange. Why shouldn't he get the house? He was the first son, and it was a basula, and the wedding was there. Says the only time he gets it is if the father wasn't using the house. The father still had all his farm there. So since the father still used it, he doesn't get the house. He just gets the furnishings. Even if the father just kept dove cuts there, he doesn't get it. Even if the father has a pot of fried fish, he doesn't get it. Marzutra Anseve Lebre, Marzutra married off his son in a house, but to show that he wasn't giving him the house, Vitolale Sandala, he hung his shoes there to show that he's still keeping the house for his own use. Rav Ashi Nasve Lebre, Vitolale Ashisha Demishka, and he hung there a lantern of oil to show that he's not giving up the house. Now the fact that the son gets it, even without making a formal kinyan, is a big chiddush. And Amar Mazutra Hani Tlas Mile, these three rules, Shavinu Rabbanan, the Rabbanan made them kihilchas abaloy taima, like halacha, even though it doesn't seem to make sense. It doesn't fit the normal rules. Chadaha, that the son gets the house, even though there was no formal kinyan made. Idach, Dam Rabbi Yehuda Meshmul, like Kaisav Kol Nichasav Leishtay. This we learned already. If somebody writes all his property to his wife, and he has sons, we say that he didn't mean that it should go to his wife. He just made her an executor. Now that's halacha b'loy taima because it doesn't say that, but that's what we assume. Either The Amarav, Monali biyadcha, I tell Berish, you owe me $100. Teneu leploni, give it to Michal Avram, and it's b'mamid shloshtem, in the presence of all three, kana. So Berish owes me $100. I tell Berish, the $100 you owe me, give it to Michal Avram. That's called Maimid Shloshtem. Michal Avram is kinyan, even though I didn't make any kinyan with I just said something. The din is that Michal Avram acquires it, and that's also a halacha b'loy time. Now, here you have Achin Ashutin. You have an estate that's shared by brothers. Shenafal echad mehem le'umnis. Sometimes the crown designates a family and says that you could be a tax collector for 2 months. That's a very, very profitable thing because you get a kickback from the tax. Since he designated a member of the family, so whoever does it, it's shared by the entire family. Now let's say chala, let's say one of the children gets sick, v'nisrape, and he uses money from the estate to get better. He can't take that money from the general share of the estate because he was negligent, as the Gemara will tell us. He was negligent in getting sick, and therefore nisrape mishal atzmai. He has to spend the money to get better from his own part of the Yerusha. Tana, when we say that the estate gets a job, Hai umnis is l'umnis hamelech. That means that the king says that a member of the family could do tax collecting for 2 months. Tana Rabbanan, echad min ha'akim sheminuhu gabay oy pelumustas, he was appointed a tax collector, or he was given a lucrative temporary position in the army. If it was given to a member of the family, so then la'akin, whichever one does it, he has to share it with the entire family. But if the crown decided one of the children was worthy and singled out one specific child, then la'atzmai. Says the Gemara, if it was just given to the family, of course they have to share it. Says the Gemara, like tzricha, the kiddush is the charif tvei. Even though the one who did it is sharper, ma'u the same churfei garmale, that it was really given because he was sharp and it wasn't given to everybody. Kamash Malan, we don't say that unless he was singled out. Tanu Rabbanan. Echad min ha'akim shenotal Messiah zuz lilmud Torah or lilmud umnas. He took $200 from the estate as, his share to learn Torah or to learn a trade. Now he wants support, food support. If you live with us, you get support. If you don't live with us, you don't get support. So the Gemara says, why can't he say, well, you're getting supported, I should get supported? Says the Gemara, Messiah later Rafuna, the Amar Ravuna, this is proof to Rafuna. The Amar Ravuna, Birchas Habayis Beruba. The blessing of the house is according to the many. In other words, when there's a fifth person living in the house, to cook for the fifth person is not so much more than 4 people. Because you just add another drumstick to the soup. If you got to send it to someone else, you got to send them a whole nother soup. If you want to light a candle, one candle is good for 4 people, the same candle is good for 5 people. If you have to give the one who's away, you have to give him another candle. So the Gemara says, but give him something. Give him at least the value of an extra pilkala. Says the Gemara, yeah, that you have to do. That you have to do. Cholav nisrape mishal atzmai. If he gets sick, he has to pay for his own medical expenses from his portion. Shalach Rav Mishmei Rabbi Lo Leishanu Ela Shechala V'Pshia. That's only if he got sick because of his negligence. Aval Ba'inus, but if it wasn't his fault, then Nisrape Min Emtza. Then he could get medical from the estate in general until they divide. Now what's called a Pshia, this is very fitting for this time of the year. Heichi Dami Pshia. What's considered negligence? Kid Rabbi Chanina. Dami Rabbi Chanina, Kol B'dei Shemayim, everything is in the hands of heaven, Chutz Metzinim Pachim, except for chilly drafts. Except for sitting in a draft. If you sit in a draft, you bring it upon yourself. Shenem Atzinim Pachim Mederech Ikesh. Drafts are in the way of the stubborn. What are you going out without a scarf? Somebody who protects himself will distance himself from these drafts. Now, there's something called shishbinus. Shishbinus means that a person is sometimes a best man for his friend. And as a best man, there's duties. If he accepts to be a best man, then he agrees to supply a certain list of gifts and take care of the meals. And it's an agreement that then when he gets married, his friend will do it from him. And this is an agreement that's collectible in court. So the father, when he was alive, sent them to be a shushbin, a best man, for someone. Now, after the father dies, one of the children gets married. Chazar shushbinis, when they return it, it doesn't just go to that chazar. Chazar le'emtza, it goes to the estate in middle. Because shashushbinis nigvis bebezin, that's something collectible in court. So since the father did it, he did it on behalf of all of his children. And therefore now, when it comes back to all of the estate, to all of the children. But if he sends with one of his sons pitchers of wine, pitchers of oil, a gift, there's no quid pro quo. There's no automatic arrangement. Ein nigvin bebezdin. That's just a kindness. Then, when that son gets married, they give him jars of wine and jars of oil. That son takes it, and it's not given to the entire estate. So now the Gemara asks a contradiction. Could I have a little seltzer, please? Cold seltzer. There's cold seltzer. If not water, but.
You want seltzer?
So now the Gemara asks a stira. What's a stira? V'mini. Shalach loy aviv shishbinus. If the father sent gifts, kishi chayzeres, when it comes back, chayzeres loy. It returns to the son that gives it, and not to the estate in general. So that's not like we learned in the Mishnah. We learned in the Mishnah that it returns to the estate in general. Nishtalcha la'aviv shishbinus, if when the father was alive, they gave him shishbinus, kishi chayzeres, now, when it has to be returned and the father is not alive, chayzeres mina emtza. It's returned from the general estate. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. But the bottom line is over here, it starts off saying that if the father sent Shishbinas with one of the sons, when it comes back and the father's not alive, it goes to that son. Now our Mishnah doesn't say that. Amar Rav Asi, Amar Rav Yochanan, we're going to switch around our Mishnah. Ki Tanan Nami Masnisan, that it goes to the estate in general. That means that if the father was given Shishbinas, and now the estate has to return it to when the other side gets married, that comes be'emtza. Nishtalcha la'aviv tanan. It means that if the gift was sent to the father when he was alive, says the Gemara, Aiva achin she'asu miksasan shishbinas kadani. It says if the brothers did shishbinas, it doesn't say if they received it. Tani limiksasan. You should read that if it came lumiksasan shishbinas, if it came when the father was alive to them, v'hachazra shishbinas ketani. It says now when the shishbinas is returned to them, not that they have to return it. Hachikama chazra ligvais. If they come to collect it back, nigvas be'emtza. It's collected from the estate in general. Rav Asi says a much more simple answer. Rav Ashi Amar loy kasha, kam bistam, kam b'mefarish. One is where the father sends it stam, without specifying that it should be for this son. One is talking about where the father specifies that it should be for this son. In other words, he sends it and he says when it comes back, it should come back for this son. Kedetanya shalach lo yaviv shishbinis kishi chayzeres. If the father sent with him, specifically with this son shishbinis, kishi chayzeres, when it returns chayzeres lai. Shalach aviv shishbinis stam. If he sent it without specifying which son should bring it, then kishi chayzeres, when they pay it back, chayzeres la'emtza, it goes to the estate in general. The next piece is a whole new sugya about Yavam. So we'll stop over here. Rabbi say this was a tall order as it is this evening. And we're going to now do the Mishnah Yomis.